Oh, you got it.
Where's my record?
Timer down this meeting, Dave, you'll be an expert.
Recording in progress.
All right, Chair Gary Delvaux.
Yes.
Vice Chair Matt Schuler.
Here.
Alder Randy Scannell.
Present.
Debbie Dean.
Here.
Kathy Hinkfuss. Kathy Hinkfuss is here.
Yep.
And Melanie Parma is excused.
Excellent. A motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Minutes from December 12th. Motion to approve the minutes of December 12th.
So moved.
Andy
Second.
and Debbie. All in favor of approving the minutes as the motion was just made, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Excuse me. Regular business, consideration of possible action to approve a planning option extension to two new land enterprises for RDA owned property at 221 Cherry Street, parcel 12-112. And that looks like that's Matt, huh?
Yep, I'll take this one. All right, so this is the site commonly referred to as the Adam Street Surface Lot on Adam and Sherry. So back in May, the RDA approved a planning option for new land enterprises to conduct their due diligence, put together a proposal to redevelop the site. The planning option was executed in July, and it's actually expiring here later this month.
Okay.
We've been working very closely with their team over the months. They are moving very, very quickly.
Good.
We do feel we do need just a few more months to button this development agreement up. So at this point, we are just requesting a 3-month extension to the planning option. The developers are on the call today and do plan to present some information on their organization and their proposal. We hope to have some more images to share at this time. Those are still kind of in process. We might be coming back in February with a more robust presentation, but at this time, they'd still like to present some information to RDA.
Okay. Motion to open the meeting.
Motion to open the floor.
Second by Kathy. Yep. That's all. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the floor is open, please. Give us an update.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for allowing us to dial in. We are finally starting to see snow accumulation. So we are, in the morning it looked like nothing as everything was melting, but now it's starting to look kind of nasty. So I think that drive back would have been rough. So we appreciate it. So as Matt mentioned, we have been working on the site, have resolved a number of issues between setbacks and property lines, addressing neighborhood concerns, have met with local stakeholders, plan to continue to meet with local stakeholders. And I'll run through, for those of you who are not familiar with new land, which I'm assuming not everybody is, I'm going to run through a quick background on our company history and the projects that we have done. Not all of them, there are 28, but the ones that are relevant to this site and how we've been thinking about this site. So do we have our screen up? No, we don't.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I can see it. Fantastic. You want me to cue you, or do you want to just introduce the cue? Okay. So we as a company have been around since 1993. We've developed 28 ground-up projects. You can see the numbers. And so we are, at this point, very well versed in every construction topology that exists. Stick frame, which we call light frame. We've done townhomes. We have done high-rises. We have done mid-rises out of like big steel. We set a world record with our Ascent project, which you'll see in a minute. And so at this point, the company, which self-manages, so we're fully vertically integrated. We are a developer, we're very hands-on with design, and then we have a full team of property management personnel, maintenance staff, We do asset management, and we even have a hospitality division. We've competed in 11 RFPs through the city of Milwaukee. We won 9 of them. We've done public-private partnerships with, you'll see this project a little bit later on as well, converting alleys to mural art destinations, working with the city of Milwaukee to convert streets to either pedestrian plazas or reconfiguring the streets. So really a wide range of experience. Go ahead. And in addition to all of those, we're also, and I mentioned this, right, that we're familiar with every type of construction topology. We used to self-perform, so we used to build our own buildings, be the general contractor. And so we have a very in-depth knowledge and understanding of different construction topologies. One such example of innovation is our Ascent, which is the world's tallest mass timber building. We won't go too deep into it, but basically it's a high-rise built out of wood. In addition to mass timber technology, it also uses some advanced technology with HVAC and energy controls, and as a result was LEED qualified, and we're probably going to pursue green globes. Go ahead, Alex. And one component is innovation. The other component is thinking beyond the building envelope. We've been in the Milwaukee community for a long time. We understand that when a building is built, it's more than just the quote-unquote 4 walls that you put up. It has an impact on neighboring buildings. It has an impact on how people use the sidewalks and how people use the neighborhood around it. And so we're very, very interested in the relationship between the developments that we create, how those developments are run, and what impact those developments have on the nearby community. And part of that, I mentioned, is this idea of we have a hospitality wing, and we have had the mentality of what does it mean to integrate hospitality and a hotel mentality into property management and into multifamily development. And so this is actually a shot of one of our lobbies. It's a project called Kinetic, which we'll see in a second. But the lobby design was inspired by a hotel in Milwaukee called the Iron Horse, which is a really unusual project and really rethought the way that lobbies are designed and the way that they welcome people off the street and integrate themselves into the community. And then, as I touched on before, we are fully vertically integrated, and so we will bring a management team with us, and we will self-manage this property. That means we're on site with our property management staff, with our maintenance personnel, taking care of not just the building, but the sidewalks, making sure that any concerns are addressed. And the team is, by multiple measures, one of the best in Wisconsin. We are literally top in the country for Glassdoor reviews, which are anonymous reviews of the company by our staff. We have some of the top Aura scores. Those are property management scores done by a third party, asking residents to give their opinions of the company. So we will bring a very, very high quality operation to Green Bay. Thanks. And then the way that we thought about it, and I think that the way that we came onto the collective, your radar, was probably this project, Ascent, because it did set a world record and it is very innovative. And it shows just how far we can and are willing to push the envelope. As you can imagine, setting a world record took some bold engineering and some difficult decisions, especially because we got this project going in 2020. So not only was it really complicated design, we had to do fire testing with the U.S. Forest Service. We literally assembled an international team to build this building that also got it off the ground in the middle of the early stages of the pandemic. So we're comfortable with raising equity and getting financing in complex environments as well. Go ahead. And so you can see this project has a really, really robust amenity program. On the left-hand side, that's one of the 2 outdoor terraces. It has an outdoor movie screen. It has, the movie screen has like a turf in front of it, so you can put lawn chairs out. And so we host movie nights, Packers games, Bucks games. And then inside you can see we actually have a bar on the rooftop. That's a private bar for residents. There are community spaces, there are co-working spaces, there's a golf simulator. The building has a pool. It has pet amenities, literally what you would expect to see in a high-end hotel. And so when we say that we bring a very high-end and really unprecedented level of amenitization, that is exactly what we do. Next. And so here you can see some additional shots of the swimming pool. This swimming pool is unique, and one of the features we're considering, the glass doors on the corners slide open. And so we have a swimming pool that's indoor that we can use 12 months out of the year, which is very different from an outdoor pool. But then in the summertime, we can open up the glass doors and create the feeling of being outside. Our most recently completed project is the one that we actually modeled the Adams Street development on. And this is a project called Nova. If you count, you'll see that it's seven, we call it well, this is a 6/3, but 6/3, 7/2. It's a podium building where the garage is inside the podium, and you can see it's being hidden by townhomes in the middle of the building, by retail on the corner, and then the lobby is on the back corner, which is a very, very similar concept to how we thought about treating the ground plan of the Adams Street development. A mix of retail spaces, lobby, and townhomes to activate the streets. And then above is residential. We just opened this project. It's been a huge success. Also features a lot of the amenities that you just saw at Ascent. So you can see we have an outdoor infinity pool, we have co-working spaces, we have a clubhouse, we have the pet amenities, and then you can also see that there are a lot of balconies for residents. We almost always build with outdoor space, and if a particular apartment can't have an outdoor space, then we provide robust outdoor space on a private terrace for the builder. Next. Thank you. And so you can see some of the interior shots here. On the left-hand side is the clubhouse. We always integrate, and you can see a little bit of it on the very, very left edge of the photo. You can see some window panes. Those are actually operable glass doors. They collapse, and they connect this clubhouse. You can see the couches in the foreground, the kitchen in the background, to the outdoor pool deck. So in the summertime, the glass collapses and it becomes one big indoor-outdoor space. Next. And then some additional, you can see the unit finishes. So we're using really high-end finishes. We call them condo grade. Either quartz or granite countertops. We're using wood plank LVT floors. We're using stainless steel appliances. We're using custom design cabinets. So it's a really, really elevated experience. And then same thing with the common areas. You've got the fitness center. In this particular building, we have a bi-level fitness center. And some really fun design elements as well. And then last but not least, this is another podium building. This is a 4/2. So again, 2 stories of parking. You can see on the right-hand side where that curve is, that's retail space that wraps all the way around. And then the parking entrance is hidden on the back. This is, the previous 2 projects were Ascent is 259 units, Nova's 251 units. This building is 140 units and has a courtyard inside. You can see the horseshoe. And so the courtyard is again on top of the parking podium, creating that private space for the residents. Thank you. So here's the aforementioned lobby. We always infuse, and we'll talk about this a little bit, experiential and biophilic elements. So the experiential is we want people to have a unique experience right away when they get into the building, even before they step foot into the building, via sidewalk design, landscaping, etc. And biophilia plays into that. That's why you see so much green. So we always incorporate natural elements, landscaping, to create a connection between the occupants and nature. And then finally, right, one of the things we were asked to do was also think beyond the building envelope. So how do we activate streets? how do we activate alleyways, which would effectively be created between us and the northern neighbor. And here's a prime example of an alley that was vacated by the city of Milwaukee. So the building to the right is actually the back of the Oriental Theater. That's where Milwaukee Film runs the Milwaukee Film Festival. The alley was dark, not lit. It was cracked asphalt. Sometimes was, saw drug use and unwelcome elements. And so this was a mostly private effort that ultimately then integrated with a business improvement district to repave the alley, light it up, and then what started as a small arts project ballooned into a true international effort, as well as regional and local, where every 3 years the murals rotate, and it has now become one of the top tourist destinations in the state of Wisconsin. That is fully publicly accessible, it's not gated off. So we've had DJs there, we've had wedding shoots, we've had Salvation Army rent out the alley for a dinner, graduation photos, advertising campaigns. It's become a really, really neat place. So that's the approach that we generally were pursuing. One of the things that we realized literally in the last week is that there's an alternative design that we think brings a little bit more efficiency. And so we had a prototype that we wanted, the reason why we scheduled this meeting, we had a prototype that we wanted to present that again looked a lot like Nova. We believe that there's a slight design change that wraps the building around a little bit more, and we're working with our architect right now to affect that design change and make sure that it's feasible before presenting it to you. What we didn't want to do is show you one version, come back in 3 weeks and say, never mind, we have a different version. But also the new version is not fully ready for presentation yet. We want to make sure it's viable before we show it to this body. And so as part of that process, we're asking for this extension to make sure that we can come back, give you a clear picture, not put the cart in front of the horse, but also not give you something that's going to be outdated in 3 weeks. And so with that, if you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them.
First of all 3 of your projects you showed are beautiful projects, and we're very, very excited about your development on Cherry Street. Absolutely. And you mentioned it's going to be, you expect the one on Cherry Street to be very much like the Nova. Is that correct? The Nova project?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's beautiful. Great. Questions for the developer, please? Matt, usually you have some good questions.
Oh, I don't know if I have a good one, Gary, but, hey, just in the course of the 3-month extension, what would you expect to, have done by the end of that? So what would we kind of see the milestone for that extension?
It's a great question. So with the initial concept that we designed, we had already engaged 2 construction firms to start providing us feedback on where they think pricing would come in. The updated architectural drawings will also be shared with those 2 teams, and we would get feedback to make sure that the budgets are coming in as expected. So a couple of things. Number 1, making sure that the architectural design is viable. Number 2, making sure that the economics make sense. We already have a pro forma developed. You can't see them, but to my left is my father, who's the founder of Newland Enterprises. But seated next to him are 2 more gentlemen. We've got our development associate and development manager, and Jody Wisniewski, who's been working with Matt, is the primary point of contact. Zach runs all of the numbers and making sure the economics are viable. And so there are multiple things happening in parallel path to making sure that the product is viable. In 3 months, we should be able to come back to you and tell you, here's the building design, here are the economics, here are the costs, and we already know what the rents are, right? But here are the costs, here's how everything shakes out, and any other economic details that the City of Green Bay would need to see to make their decisions.
Kathy, your thoughts?
I think it's great. I was just going back to look at how many units we are looking at here.
258 units, 259 units in our very original design and thought, and we would not want to go for less.
Okay. And then, and the financing will be included potentially at the within the next 3 months? That'll all be taken care of?
We don't think it'll be wrapped up, but we will have made enough headway to understand general parameters on viability.
Okay, okay.
Debbie, your thoughts?
I don't have any, I think it's great.
Yeah, it is absolutely. I agree with Alderman Scannell.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the projects that we looked at were just very innovative and really cool. We need something cool.
Yeah.
Yes,
Alderman Scannell?
yes, something to add.
Yeah, just,
That much we can guarantee, it will be cool.
okay.
For better or worse, we do the heavy boring.
Well, just very exciting and glad
Yes.
you're coming to Green Bay. This is
Yeah,
going to
right.
be a wonderful project, can't wait.
Thank you.
Hey, if there's no other questions, motion to go back to regular order of business?
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Scannell, a second by Kathy. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we're back to regular order of business.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Alderman Scannell, a second by Debbie. Questions or comments in regard to the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Very, very exciting. We very
Yes.
much welcome you to Green Bay and look forward to the project developing. Excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, number 2. Consideration of possible action to approve a planning option extension to On Broadway, Inc. for RDA-owned parcels 4-91, 4-91A, 4-79, 4-77, 4-78, 4-161, and 4-160.
That's actually going to take this one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one
please.
is working remote today with the weather, so I told her I'd take this one off her hands. So this is, of course, the parcels owned by Redevelopment Authority located behind the old Fort Square building. The site is, of course, planned to be improved with On Broadway taking on the public market project, which they are currently working on. So they, back in January of '22, the RDA approved a 1-year planning option to OBI so they could explore improving this site back here. Not just the RDA-owned parcels, but there's also some city-owned parcels back here. It's a bit of a mix of parcels that probably should have been combined at one point in time and put under one ownership, but for whatever reason never were. Anyway, so they're looking at this total site to see how that might be improved to complement their project. Conceptually, they're looking at potentially adding a parking ramp and housing. Those plans are still being developed. So they are looking to request a bit more time to move those concepts forward. They've been working with staff very closely in this time. We have seen advancement in their plans. We're very comfortable recommending an extension here. We are recommending approval of a 3-month planning option extension with staff authority to approve an additional 3 months if necessary. I believe Alderman Brian Johnson is on the call if you have questions for him.
Alderman Johnson, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, we don't have the robust presentation that Tim and Boris. But look, we're making great progress. And what we talked about with staff, we initially requested a 6 month just to be on the safe side. I think a 3 is we're very comfortable with. Our intent is to really have a development agreement in front of the RDA probably within 3 months, a term sheet even sooner. Because this is a complex project. It's very layered. There's a lot of things going on. even just looking at the parcel ownership behind that building, as you can see, is complex. So, and we just want to make sure, obviously, that like any developer, that you're not sticking money into developing plans when you don't actually have control of the site.
Right.
And so,
Right.
we know that we have to meet certain deadlines because we are applying for new market tax credits for this project. And in order to close on that in a timely manner and still meet the timelines we're looking at, we have to have a development agreement with the city. So, I think typically the things the RDA is going to look for, are you making progress on your architectural engineering and design? The answer to that is yes, we're very deep into that process. Obviously, our board of directors is not going to be spending that money if they're not serious about the project, which would necessitate the option on the site.
Okay. Questions or comments to Alderman Johnson or to anyone else that's on the project? Yeah, Alderman.
Yeah, it seems like now would be a good time. I know there's been talk in the past and it kind of went nowhere, but is there still a design, a hope, a prayer that Hubbard would go all the way through?
Yeah, I think as part of our development agreement, you know, we're gonna broach that topic, and then we'll be looking to staff for some guidance on how we can clean up the street, the street connectivity back there. Of course, if you're gonna put a ramp on that site, you have to create something that's different than what exists there today. You know, our preference is certainly gonna see some level of connectivity from Hubbard to Chestnut, and I think we'll work with staff to talk about whether or not there are certain design elements that would make sense to bring Hubbard through. You know, I think sometimes, particularly in a community like Green Bay, we tend to just think exclusively in terms of streets. And I think there are some alternatives that we can explore, like a Wooner, for example. You know, something that still allows vehicular access, but makes it a little bit more pedestrian friendly. So we're open to those types of designs. Our primary concern isn't Hubbard all the way through, but I think it's if you're going to entertain it, now is probably an appropriate time to do that,
Right.
given our need for Chestnut Hubbard connection.
Right, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
Other questions or comments in regard to the recommendation?
No, would like to see it, and Brian, it'd be great if we could get a parking ramp down there.
That is the objective.
I mean, that would solve a lot of issues, some I heard last night, so.
We will have the proposal for you. It'll be up to the RDA to make that decision, so.
Thanks, Brian.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. We didn't know
Second.
before, right?
No, I didn't know, it's just
Right,
Brad.
because you're right, yeah. Motion to approve.
Kathy seconded.
Kathy, second.
And
Second,
by Kathy. Any questions or comments in regard to the motion in a second?
Nope.
If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Good luck, Brian. Sounds very exciting again.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you. Number 3, consideration of possible action to allocate $550,000 of the home ARP grant to fund 2 full-time LTE homeless outreach case coordinators according to their positions for a period of 3 years. Wow. Well,
Thank you.
That is Will.
Yeah.
Thank you, Will.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. So as part of the American Rescue Plan Act that was passed during the pandemic, there was a special allocation of funds through HUD that awarded PJs participating jurisdictions like ours additional funding through the home program to assist specifically qualified populations. So individuals, households that are homeless or at risk of homeless or extremely housing insecure. The city's allocation from HUD was $1.9 million. This is one-time funding. And as part of gaining access to this $1.9 million, the city had to develop an allocation plan. So not necessarily a hard and fast budget on how these dollars are going to be spent, but they really want to see communities doing the due diligence and talking with service providers, shelters, community partners to really determine and lay out what the needs are when it comes to serving homelessness, or serving individuals who are homeless and individuals who are extremely housing insecure, because as I'm sure we all know, homelessness is something that's been around for a very long time, and unfortunately, isn't going away anytime soon. So it's something that we can continually to invest money in. So we just want to be sure that what these dollars are being spent on is our gaps in services and true needs are going to see an impact. So as part of the allocation plan, there was a portion of these funds that have been set aside specifically for affordable housing, because that was a need expressed by all of the service providers and shelters that we interviewed through this process, is there's a need for more affordable housing, specifically affordable housing that will serve individuals coming right out of homelessness. But then there's also been expressed a need for additional supportive services, right? So whether that is mental health, AODA, but then also coordination services, outreach services. So right now, if we look at our current unsheltered numbers from 2022 to 2023, they nearly doubled.
Okay, that's
So
what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, they nearly doubled. And I'm sure many of our partners are here on the call, both from our service provider community, but then also our business community has also seen the impacts in homelessness in our community. So though the numbers that have increased for our unsheltered, we really still only have one person that is dedicated full-time to on-the-street outreach, which is Paul Van Handel, who's joined us as well on the call. And Paul does great work, and as do our shelters and other service agencies who have some staff that are dedicated to outreach and working with individuals on the street. But just with the sheer numbers that we have, they're really only able to provide that initial contact, like, hey, are you connected to services? Here's a shelter, we tried there, we can get you signed up for physical here, but then they're off to the next person. And something that is missing right now in a gap of service delivery is outreach staff that are able to really maintain a smaller caseload, like we're talking 10 individuals max, that can provide that one-on-one support that many of these unsheltered and chronic homeless individuals need, because some of these individuals are experiencing multiple barriers. They're not just housing, but then also access to shelter, whether or not they have a medical condition that needs attention, or whether or not they are currently intoxicated and provide self-care, or whether they're having a difficult time staying on their medication. Like it's some of these individuals have very complex needs that really require someone to be working one-on-one with that person, to really work with other partners in the community, the shelters, Brown County Mental Health, to get the right support team in place. Because what we're finding is that there's a growing number of individuals who are homeless that don't quite fit into the existing program network that we have. It's kind of like a square peg round hole situation, where there are certain factors to those individuals, their barriers to the housing and shelter, that are preventing them from either being ready to accept those services or being allowed into those programs. And so that person, this outreach coordinator, this case coordinator, is really going to be working one-on-one with those individuals to put that support network, that individualized plan that is needed to help them become ready for services and get out of homelessness and into housing, which is the ultimate goal, is to get the individuals who are currently experiencing homelessness and out on the street into permanent housing. So we are proposing 2 full-time what we're calling case coordinator positions, because really it's not that this person is really only going to be working in a silo. They are going to be working with other case managers from other service organizations, providers, shelters, to develop that plan, that individualized plan that will help that person take those next steps to accepting services, accepting shelter, or finding suitable housing. I think,
Two questions.
Yes.
When you said it doubled, what number are we at?
for 2023, 409. Now this, I'm going based off numbers, and Jennifer Allen is also joining us from iCare Solutions. She's our HMIS lead for Brown County. And a lot of the data information that I received is from Jennifer, so she can speak more in depth if you have further questions. But the 409 are coming from individuals that Paul Van Handel and other outreach staff had entered into HMIS. And those 409 individuals are unduplicated. So they're not, those are 409
Sure.
people within the area that have were unsheltered this past year.
And as far as, helping them eventually get housing, which is great, what about getting them the skills so that they can get employment?
Sure. Yeah, and I think part of that is, for these case coordinators will have that that knowledge of the current, I mentioned earlier, this current service program network, so to say, the organization service that others understand. St. John's offers the Joseph Project that offers employment resources. We also have the DVR here, the Division of Vocational Rehab through the DWD, that also work with individuals who are currently in shelter, trying to help them, give them the skills needed to obtain meaningful employment. So really, the responsibility of these individuals are to take a holistic approach to the needs of these individuals who are homeless, to understand what is preventing them from accepting shelter, or what is preventing them from being, from getting onto, Medicaid. And some of it is, and really recently I was in a meeting where I was informed that some of our service providers are either at capacity with the amount of individuals that they're working with, or beyond capacity, or because of staff capacity, some of these organizations don't even have enough time to sit one-on-one and help these individuals fill out applications for their services. So, these outreach case coordinators are going to provide that almost hand-holding, so to say, where if they need help filling out an application, or they need access to internet access, to really set up that game plan to help these individuals get off the street and into safe and stable housing.
Okay.
And I'm assuming this group will be working with the most difficult, the most needy.
Right, so
population.
so this is kind of the first step in creating these positions is coming before you all here at the Redevelopment Authority to request the funding for these positions, but then personnel is meeting this afternoon, and then council later this month to approve. But if these positions are approved, then what will happen is a meeting will be scheduled between city staff here, some of the shelters that are doing outreach, Paul Van Handel, to really, and Jennifer Allen, to really look at how are we going to determine, how are we going to pull from the list, whether it's coordinated entry, how are we going to, what's going to be the criteria for most barriers to housing. So that is something that's going to be fleshed out.
And also, I think, of that number, 409, I'm sure there are quite a few that are employed. Yeah, I'm sure.
There are.
Yeah, yeah, to be homeless is not necessarily unemployed.
Right.
So there are quite a few, they just need
And
one or two little things, and
And to get into
a lot of that population
and to get into
can be
housing,
sustained.
to get into
themselves.
housing doesn't actually mean eventually they'll be employable.
Right.
Right.
You still gotta get the-
Right.
There's a
doesn't-
lot of people
right.
that are not employable. I was wondering about the prioritization,
Yes.
right? Because there's people that, are illiterate, they need, they aren't able to fill out forms. They have mental health needs that are so staggering that they don't have the ability to focus on anything.
Right.
Right? But to only have a caseload of 10, you said? Like
Right.
each one?
Right.
And how long would that person be tied to that caseworker then?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Because, the numbers are are so astronomical.
Right.
And you're only addressing 20 people get off the street at a time. So,
But
I mean, that's what I'm asking.
Sure, yeah, so I mean, obviously, I want to say obviously, what we don't want to do, part of this is personal experience speaking as well, so because before I worked with the city, I was also a case manager for a nonprofit organization providing employment, job development services. And so I have firsthand experienced the stressors that case managers can experience, such as
Sure.
just, before you know it, you're up to like 50, 60 people.
Right.
And it comes down to the amount of quality time you're able to spend with that individual needs to work through, the barriers that they're experiencing, or come up with a plan and then actually act on that plan. It's my understanding that, one of the issues that we're experiencing is, especially when we're talking about generating nuisance calls, or some of the issues we've been experiencing with the park at St. John's Park, is that it's really a smaller population. And we're hoping to focus the staff on some of those individuals that that have some of those high needs, such as those co-occurring mental health and AODA. But what we're also finding as well is that out of the entire states right now, Brown County, our region here, has the longest wait time on our coordinated entry list. From being on a list for services and then getting into services and programs, Brown County has the longest wait period. So we're having a service delivery problem. I think if these individuals, if these case coordinators can handle more than 10, then obviously we can ramp up their caseload. What we don't want to do is just all of a sudden max them out right away. We want to ensure that, because what we're finding is that the programs and the nonprofits that we have currently addressing the issues in our community are doing great work. They are. They're seeing successes. They're seeing people enter their programs and exit. But what we're struggling with is getting a grasp on this other population of homeless individuals with these numerous barriers to housing. Not only that, but then also having this list of individuals waiting for programs and services that is slow to reduce. So though we can look at each organization, and I'm sure many of the nonprofits can come in and speak to all the successes that we're having, when we look at it holistically, as a city, as a county, those numbers are really starting to slow to come down. So I think what we want to do is kind of a gradual. We're going to start with a focus on the individuals with the highest barriers, most barriers to shelter and to permanent housing. But then if we are able to expand, their capacity, then that's fantastic. We'll do that. But right now, this isn't even being offered at all. This type of support, it's not existent right now.
Right.
And that population is not a large percent, the ones with that we want to prioritize. It's not.
No, I
it's not.
realize that.
Yeah.
I've attended the coalition meetings for a number of years, so.
Yeah.
So
If anything, I think I'd
understand.
rather see the program expanded and add more
Yeah,
case
I'm sure
managers.
many people would like to see that
Yeah.
as well. But I think we're also looking at, funding source right now.
Yeah.
And 3 years we feel is a good period of time, because understanding the complexity of some of these, the backgrounds and the histories of these individuals that are going to be worked with, we just want to make sure that we're not setting these positions up for failure. We're only funding them for a year or two, and then what's the impact?
Right.
But within that period, that 3-year period, obviously we're going to be in communication with our shelter community and service provider community to look at long-term, how can we sustain these positions? Because just plain and simple, there's a need for this level of care right now that doesn't exist. And right now, it's not being offered by anyone, and we just feel we have this money, it's here. And additionally, and something I didn't mention yet, but I think is important to mention, many of these meetings that occur, such as the coalition, HOT Basic Needs Homeless Outreach Team, and this downtown stakeholders team meeting, there's quite a bit of city staff involved from many departments, from our department here to our parks department to the police. I know I've been in a couple of those meetings, there's been at least six police officers, plus the chief. So we also feel that having these positions housed under the city will help just reduce some of that staff time from other departments addressing this issue right now, so.
This isn't terribly important, but where would these two positions be reporting to? What area of the city staff?
They've been reporting to our department here.
Okay.
I think we would need to work out what specifically that would look like, but
Sure.
it'd be housed within, under our department, Community Economic Development.
Makes sense.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
I need to back up a minute, because, so we received a grant, and part of that grant is saying that we have to fund, staff to assist with the homeless population. I'm just trying to figure out what is the grant.
Nope,
saying?
so the grants is specifically for addressing homelessness. It has to serve qualified individuals, those who are homeless, at risk of homeless or fleeing, attempting to flee domestic violence, and then there's this other category where you meet certain criteria, but really, there's a list of eligible activities. So one of the eligible activities is affordable housing development, which we have money, we have $1 million allocated towards the development of affordable housing. There's another category which we're talking about here, which is supportive services. And that supportive services category is quite broad and very inclusive as to what that could be. That could be everything from providing medical care to individuals who are homeless, to child care, to outreach staff. And then it also allows, and we're honing in on outreach staff here because that's been an identified need. Also allows the municipality to house those positions or create those positions as well. So we're honing in, it's very broad, and this is what we're honing in on based on the current needs in our community. And also looking.
Then I would ask, because I've been involved in the Homeless Coalition for many, many years. Brown County receives a lot of money to serve our homeless, correct? We got shelters. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of experts out there on homelessness, and is the solution for us to hire two people to do this, or to allocate that money to best be utilized by the experts and nonprofits that are out there?
I think that's a fair question to ask, Kathy. I think what we're running into is, between myself, the mayor, Ahmad, and others, we've been talking about the need for this level of care, and as has Paul Van Handel, let me call him out, but there has been discussion of a need for this level of care for a number of years, for sure before I've even been involved, and what we're struggling with is no one stepping forward. So we feel that since the funding is available and the need is clear and there can be a benefit starting tomorrow with this type of work being done, that we feel we just need to rise to this call. Whether or not these positions stay housed within the city indefinitely, that's another conversation. These are just LTE, limited term employment positions that just don't exist right now, that we feel need to start, and we feel that the city is a good place for them to begin and get established. And then when we look at, during that time, as we see these positions perform in the community and we get a better idea of how they function, and if we feel that we need to look at having these positions housed outside of the city, or if there's another entity that would adopt them, then we can have those conversations. But we're at a position right now where there's a high need right now that's currently not being provided for. I don't know if that
I'm just struggling with why we wouldn't house them with the, we got 2 homeless shelters plus down there, and I'm assuming that they're doing outreach.
If I may,
I think it maybe open up the floor.
Well, and if I may, as a city alder, working on this issue for 10 years, it has been extremely frustrating.
I understand, Randy.
And
I'm not saying it's not.
Well, no, but hear me out. And the biggest frustration is that the city has I've done very little, have been in a position to do very little, to be active, to do something that we can proactively do. And here now we've got that chance to, instead of trying to herd everybody together, which can be like herding cats. I mean, every organization is great, but they do, and everybody's starting to get working together, and we're starting to find that continuum of services, but it really feels good to be able for the city to step up and do something instead of trying to, for 10 years, it's been so frustrating to see the problem and not being able to be a part of the solution. And this gives us a part of the solution.
I would like to move to open the floor to see what
A motion by Deputy.
Second.
Second, motion and second.
See what
Open the floor.
Officer
All
Van
those in
Handel
favor, signify by
has to
saying
say.
aye.
Aye.
The floor is open, please.
Officer Van Handel, can you give us your insight on this?
Yes, certainly. I think,
Oh, he's not an officer. Sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
No, I keep forgetting you're not Officer Van Handel anymore.
Well, I was for about 25 years.
Yeah, I know.
With the city of Green Bay and several other years prior to that with Outagamie Sheriff's Department and Hartford PD, but about 25 with the city of Green Bay, and I could say I've been working on this my last, I did about 12 years as a community police officer in the downtown area with Navarino, Joannes, the Whitney Park area, and really, really solidly working on homelessness as long as Randy Scannell has been an alder. Solid for the last 10 years.
Blame me!
Sorry, I had to point that out, but you already initiated it, so it was open.
And that was before St. John's, right?
About that same time, I believe, in there somewhere, but, so I've been working largely with the unsheltered homeless population, and I just, wanted to point out between Jennifer and I, we do know the numbers and those that are in the unsheltered population, and I think the standing, if it had been announced, it was like 490, I think it would be about half of that would be the unsheltered population that we worked with this year, so right around that 260 to 280 mark. And it's just been burgeoning out of control with since 2021 when we had just a smaller number, and it's been, I pointed out several times that we're seeing this massive amount of growth in this population for whatever, and it's a variety of reasons. And we're experiencing that, what they call double exponential or even like factorial growth, where it's just this large growth rate. And a lot of that is in our downtown area where we're finding that. So in addition to starting when I was in community policing, really getting the homeless outreach team, or HOT team as it's called, around the country that work with unsheltered homeless individuals, I also now coordinate PATH, which is Projects for Assistance and Transitions from Homelessness. The PATH grant has been in Northeast Wisconsin for, I think, about 8 or 9 years. I'm not positive, but it's around there. NewCap took that on. So since I retired in spring of 2021, I was hired at NewCap to do street outreach and continue running the homeless outreach team, where we talk about many of these issues that Will has already brought up. What does the scene look like on the ground? What is happening at ground level? How can we best interact with that and change the dynamic that's taking place? How can we find appropriate housing? How can we work with chronically homeless individuals? So, gotta shut off all here, thanks. But anyway, So how do we best interact with that? And I think that what we're doing now is meeting regularly, monthly, incorporating, and we have been incorporating police departments, De Pere PD, Green Bay PD, certainly, hospitals, psych hospitals, everybody that we can that impacts this issue. It's very complex, and I think what Will is talking about fits, because we're not saying they're only that these case managers that I would directly work with and interact with would only take 10 people a year. It's 10 people at any given time. So certainly, given the complex needs that we know are out there, and sometimes as much as 50% of this population, it can involve that mental health component or a co-occurring component where it's alcohol and other drug type issues. When we see that, we need to spend more time. It takes time to solve these problems. And really, like Will is saying, work with and walk with these individuals and not just give them paperwork, but help them fill out the paperwork, help them access these points that they need. We have a group of people that feel that they don't fit in the gaps in the system. They're being overlooked. And so the first thing we do in the homeless outreach team is really to do those 5 tenets to build trust and rapport and encourage, motivate, and mentor, and be that bridge between where they are on the street and where they need to be in the continuum of care within Brown County. Sometimes that sounds easy, and it's just not for people to be able to access the right services when they need them. And that is what we're really talking about doing. And also getting them to the point where they trust us again. But it's really important that we start to do that, I think, this year, so this doesn't get further away from us than it already has. Like I said, the growth rate is just, it's out there. I think it's as much or more than any other city across the country. So I think it's time we do something now. And Green Bay is very, very directly involved in that. We find most of our people here. I can just say St. John's Park is certainly one of those areas, but certainly Baird's Creek, the Fox River Trail, and many of the green spaces in and around the Hagemeister Park area, the Neville Public Museum area, and along the walkways. So having 2 people at the city level that really understand the mission, I think would be it is huge for us and something that's very, very needed.
Question for you, Paul.
Yes, sir.
If you were still wearing the blue, how would you feel about the city having these 2 positions?
Absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary, just because they're able to really do that case management and be that link with other organizations to help get them off the street. I'm not saying, I do work with our behavioral health officers regularly. I do work with the homeless outreach officer, Officer Elger, and that goes very, very well. But we do need this because it would be someone that can interact with that population and be directly involved, and we know that they could offer really, really, I think, quick results.
Any other questions for Paul?
Just maybe one question. It could be Will or it could be Paul. This is Matt Schuler. Just a question on, are we modeling this off of something that other cities have done and have seen success, or where does the model for this come from?
Sure. So I can start to answer this, and then Paul, you can jump into. So both in Milwaukee County, and then out even in Hennepin County in Minnesota, Twin Cities area, there are outreach staff that maintain small caseloads, that offer that one-on-one direct support, and have seen high success rates because of that. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just trying to provide a level of care, a level of service delivery that's currently missing right now from our homelessness service landscape.
Any other questions for Paul? If
No,
not,
I just want to when I was asking my questions before, I totally support moving and supporting our homeless. I just want to make sure our money is being best spent and that we're utilizing the experts in the field. And Officer Van Handel, I remember being at a couple of meetings with you when we were looking for the MICA Center. So that's not my, just make, so we're coordinating with all the other resources out there and we're really getting those results that we
I
expect.
100% hear you, Kathy, and I appreciate it. And it'd be impossible. So, and I just want to, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but if we did, I'm going to reiterate it. This is, the intent of these positions are not to duplicate services. In order for this position to be successful, they need to be working one-on-one, collaboratively with other outreach staff, with our PD, with our area shelters, with Brown County Health and Human Services. And something to help answer your question as well that you asked earlier of why this should be housed in the city. I know it's for some it might be, and I'm not saying this is you, but for some, when the general public is looking at how the community addresses homelessness, really all they see many see are the shelters that are available in the city. They just assume that everybody has the same understanding, the same definition of homelessness, the same approach to homelessness. But really, I mean, there are different philosophies and viewpoints. And what we don't want to see happen, which you may or may not have experienced in your previous experience working with a coalition, is that for a change in leadership with an organization or a staff restructuring, that these positions get lost or get steered in a different direction that at the end of the day may be serving, their mission, but what is it doing to bring down homelessness as a whole in our community? To step out aside of all the work being done is, okay, great, we're having all these wins individually, but collectively, how are we addressing homelessness and bringing those numbers down? And that's why we feel that having these positions housed within the city will help maintain that kind of openness and freedom to collaborate cooperatively with other providers and shelters.
any other questions for Paul?
For anybody else? Is there
Or anybody else?
This is the time for anyone on the floor, yeah.
Is anyone else want to? Any other service providers want to?
If not, I'll make a motion to go back.
Well, it looks like she just,
I'm
Jennifer just
sorry.
said.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is Jennifer Allen, as Will stated earlier, I did provide a lot of the data, and just to reiterate, again, Paul mentioned he touched about 280, there was 400 unduplicated people this year. Previous to my doing the HMIS work that I'm doing right now, which is the database that all homeless programs in Green Bay, but also in the state of Wisconsin enter into, these 10 years, I was also the director of House of Hope prior to this, and I've been with the coalition since 2002, so I really have been around a long time and have been watching the street outreach creep up, and I just really appreciate the city's willingness to take this on and really have taken a more intensive role this year, or these past couple of years, I should say, with looking at this, and the fact that that funding is being directed towards one of our immediate needs is just, it feels really good in the service provider world to know that, we have a good partner in the city taking this on.
Very good. Any other questions or comments in open session? If not, I'll entertain a
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor, go back to regular order of business. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Alderman Scannell, second by Debbie. Any questions or comments in regard to the motion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Very good. Very exciting. Thank you. Excellent
Thank
job. Very exciting. Informational. I had a couple questions on the check register, but Krista answered them. Does anybody else have questions in regard to the register? If not, director's report and project updates. Cheryl.
Well, we have the list that we've attached with the agenda. I've noticed it is very small. In the printed, it's really small.
Oh,
I'll
is
try to
it?
read it. Yeah, so I guess I can just briefly go through merge. The merge project just went through Plan Commission last night for their planned unit development. That will go on to council. Good. They're looking to break ground in the summer of this year.
The construction season is this
Yeah,
year.
construction season, right? City East and Bay City lots are both under construction as we speak. 200 North Monroe, spoke with Ted Mackham yesterday. He's still working on this project, and our goal was we need to do something with the site. Hope to come back in February. He's looking at the original plan. JBS, RFPs are going to go out for that site for individual sites to hopefully find some housing development. The city's working on actually the streets and the parking project separately. Heard from Newland, Badger Sheet Metal. I think we'll be working with the ad hoc committee to take a look at that. That's the Badger Sheet Metal potential fire station combination project we were looking at. The Fort the rail yards are under construction. I have no updates on Pulliam at this point. Carnivore, I think, are we completed?
Yeah.
With the project, we said we could move that one
Yeah,
out.
groundbreaking.
Shipyard Phase 1 is still under, still working on that. Gary Gator's project on Broadway, I believe, is completed.
Yeah, there's one
Pretty
retail
close.
unit that isn't completed yet, but generally speaking, the residents are moved in, the portions of the property that we've funded through TDA or the CDI grants, that's been completed.
Good, yeah, good. Habitat Homestead, still looking to do the street this year. They can start building the houses later this year. Dewan Cherry is still under his planning option. Peter Nugent, we've done a lot of work with him, actually, up to this meeting. Kind of just right before this meeting, he asked to go to February with the project, but he's actively working on that project.
Any discussion about Three Corners?
That's part of the discussion.
Part of the discussion,
On those-
okay.
both of those sites,
Okay,
because
okay.
he would like to see.
Wasn't he located there?
He owns
Three
the
Corners?
land.
Yeah, he owns the land.
Where Old
Yeah,
Meadow is.
that was the way.
But have you know that sculpture?
Sharon Schumacher is still under planning option.
Okay.
University Avenue, working with Golden House and NeighborWorks to do housing next to the new Golden House.
Great.
For 4th Street and the months following 4th Street, Marion Gallagher are planning options with NeighborWorks. New construction happening on Harold. We've got on Baird, on Broadway, all the housing stuff that's listed below.
Yes.
Our projects that are coming down the pipe are either under construction or will be under construction this summer. And then we're working with Dana Capital, that's the old Zozo's Eagles Nest, right?
Oh,
Things
yeah.
they're looking at,
Yeah, yeah.
kind of looking
Wow.
at the planning options for that one now, and then putting the financing package together.
Yep, the planning option expires in May, but they are working on their RETA application.
Good.
So there's been a lot of back and forth coordination with those guys.
Excellent.
Yep, primarily the planning side of things.
Yep.
Great update. A lot of exciting things going on. Wow.
A lot of plates
Fantastic.
spinning.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Jeff, is there anything you'd like to add from Downtown?
At the next RDA meeting, I'll be more than happy to invite you all to a couple of new restaurants opening on Washington Street. So we see opening soon. Some of you old timers, Jerry and others might remember the old Oxford, which was Fox Heights.
Yes.
Zaid's place.
But I remember when
Zaid's place.
when Oxford's was the place in downtown for business lunch. It was the place, and it's coming back.
Yay.
Opening soon, it will be known as Heights Pub and Parlor.
Okay.
And we really enjoyed witnessing a very nice send-off for James Feng's China Palace.
Oh, yeah.
Operated business in downtown for 28 years. Great guy, dedicated entrepreneur, and it will now be renamed and taken over by a couple, and that will be Asian fusion cuisines. Either opening now or soon. And we see some construction in a building on Pine and Washington above Mad Chicken. Good property owners. This is space that has not been occupied in a long time.
Nice.
The third floor. Many of you, also historians, might remember that is where the well-known agency Archetype was launched.
Right.
And they were there for
Yep.
7 years.
Yes.
Yep.
That third floor is under construction now with a new professional tenant, and we'll share more information on that. But it's great to see entrepreneurs selecting locations like this that are underutilized and bringing them back, and we look forward to welcoming these new businesses. There was a very nice summary article in the press online. I encourage you all to check that out. But we were very thankful that local media wanted a little recap of look back at 23 and some of the things that are in store for 24. Obviously, the residential aspect is one that there's a great opportunity. Very encouraged by the New Land Enterprises presentation.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
it's a major complement to everything else that's happening in the downtown.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yeah, Deb, please.
What is going on with maybe this was in your report and it just went by my head, the Old Bank Mutual building, the old,
That was purchased by the county, and I believe they did an RFI for proposals to come in. Dave and Matt actually sat in on those to review some proposals that came through, but I'm not sure whether, I think they're reviewing, the county's reviewing those proposals.
Right.
was there the Indian restaurant?
Oh, no, that's,
that got shut down.
yeah, that
Oh,
fell
that's
through.
gone.
With that, yeah, yeah.
County purchased the
all right.
land, and they were looking for, looking at the.
The Indian restaurant, I was gonna go to the old Dippers.
Oh, yeah. So, okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, the county's driving that
Okay.
train, so.
Okay.
I understand they intend to demolish that building, or level it, or remove it, whatever.
I'm not sure, did all the proposals talk about demolishing the building, or, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, everything's still very
It's-
preliminary,
Okay, okay.
so.
It's a possibility that that building could come down, I think, but.
Yes, okay,
Yeah,
all right, this is great,
pretty-
okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
Is Leah, Leah, are you, is she there?
I am here.
Leah,
I am.
give us an
Hello,
update.
happy snow day. I'm comfortably in my office today. Our winter market is going strong. The next
Yeah.
one's January 20th.
Yeah.
And we have a couple development sites. I'm hoping the city can work with the old Sears property to make those developable lots. And we have the old Green Bay Nursery site also. Someone might be interested in that, but that's not going to be the car dealership anymore, so that's open for development as well.
Yeah, very good. Is Brooke, or Brian?
Brian's here.
Brian, you still there?
Yeah, sort of.
Maybe not.
No, yeah,
There
yeah.
it is. Yeah, Brooke is at Leadership Green Bay today, but, yeah, we got lots of stuff going on too. Thanks.
Good, I know you do. Very good.
Oh, really? I'm not sure I believe
I
that.
like your conciseness.
Any other questions or comments for staff or the mayor on board yet? No? I guess not. Okay. If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Matt. All those in favor, saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
At our next meeting, I will be 68 years old.
Joanne.